Attention! Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 114 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we got a fun show today, although it's not going to start off fun, as we have some actually really sad news, I think, just because of, we've basically, the horror community has taken some losses in the past year, some significant ones, but for some reason, this one just really stung.
Yeah, as you guys probably know already, Sid Haig passed away at the age of 80, I believe.
Yeah,
and
he was 80.
You know what? It was interesting with him because he was such a personality at the conventions. I think so many fans had gotten to meet him and love him and know what a gentleman and what a nice guy he was at the conventions. It really hit everybody really hard. Even though it's sad, it's also been kind of heartwarming to see all the horror fans come out of the woodwork and post their pictures of meeting him and talking about their experiences with him and his stories and stuff. It's been really, really nice.
Yeah, and it was great to see. I spent so much of the day reading other horror people, people in the horror community, not just fans, but other actors and directors, and it was just, you see how beloved he is. So I see what you mean, but it's like, at some level, as sad as it is, it's nice to see someone who passed on just knows what an impact they made on so many people.
Right, and as you guys know, I posted the picture of me meeting him at Mad Monster Party back in 2015, and my interaction with him wasn't, really long. I only met him briefly, but he was just a super nice guy, and he was one of those guys, he was not there to make a ton of money. He had the lowest priced autographs of anybody at the convention.
Yeah.
He was just there to meet the fans, and I think he loved it, and all the stories I've read today kind of sum up the same thing. Like, he just loved the horror community. And he had even, I saw that one article I read, I don't remember if it was the one Rob Zombie wrote, that he had basically kind of given up acting in the late 90s, early 2000s until House of a Thousand Corpses put him back on the map. And then he was in everything after that. So right. He really credited the Captain Spaulding character for resurrecting his career, which I thought was really cool. But he's got a long and storied career outside of the Rob Zombie films. And one of our favorites, Brian, that we covered early on was Spider Baby.
Right. He was even in THX 1138. I mean, just think of the things he was in, the broad spectrum of types of films he was in. And he was on sitcoms, everywhere. Yeah,
and outside of the horror genre, he was on A-Team and MacGyver and all those 80s shows you used to love back then. He was in those, which I thought was really, really cool. He was on The
Flying Nun. Yeah. What a just a great guy. A very, very sad loss. But you know what, though? I think he's one of those people that are just going to live on in everyone's memories for a long time. So hopefully he'll be eating some, and I apologize here because I'm going to break the kind of loose no curse rule, but hopefully he's up there eating some tutti fucking fruity and
yes.
Just looking down at all the people who care about him, and they're just saying such nice things about him.
Yeah. All right, so let's get right into the rest of our show. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, the 40 Years of Terror project continues, and this week it was 2003. 2003, not a fantastic year for horror movies. The early 2000s in general were the start of the Japanese ghost phase. But in 2003, we had not quite hit peak Japanese film saturation yet. So we had some other stuff, but it was a lot of remakes and sequel type things. We did have Wrong Turn, which I thought was a pretty good franchise. We had Jeepers Creepers 2. We had High Tension, which I just reviewed recently. Freddy vs. Jason, of course, Final Destination 2, and, fittingly, House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yep.
So we did have some good stuff in there, and we also had a lot of total garbage. But this one was not total garbage. I watched Dead End from 2003, knew nothing about this movie other than it was on Tubi, and it was on the list of those top 1,000 horror movies on Letterboxd. So I said, well, yeah, I'll just grab that one, so that knocks another one off the list. What I did not realize is this thing stars Ray Wise and Lin Shaye.
Oh, wow.
So,
There's
Brian,
two right there.
Yeah, you've got to see this. I know you're a Twin Peaks fanatic.
Yes.
Ray Wise does full Ray Wise in this movie. He gets the
God.
chance to go full crazy. Lin Shaye gets to go full crazy. And what it's about is, and I like this part about it because it's not your typical teenagers getting stranded on a dead-end road type thing, which you would think from the title. What it is Ray Wise plays a father, Lin Shaye plays the mother. They're driving their teenage son and daughter and I think her boyfriend around. And Ray Wise nods off and almost wrecks the car, careens off of the highway, and they wind up on this back, dark, desolate country road. And Ray Wise is too proud to admit he made a mistake, so he decides to just keep driving. And then the movie just goes crazy from there. All the stuff that happens to this poor family on the road. It's almost like a horror version of National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh my God.
It's a very interesting movie, very interesting premise. It goes in places you would not expect it to go, and it's definitely redeems itself through the performances of Lin Shaye and Ray Wise. So I would recommend Dead End. I'm not saying it's a fantastic horror movie per se, but it's at least very entertaining just from their two performances alone. So.
Well, I love Ray Wise and I love Lin Shaye, so you've already sold me with that. I don't care if they sit there and they discuss politics for 45 minutes straight. I'm going to watch that movie.
I think you're going to love this one, Brian, because it does remind me, it does have sort of a Twin Peaks vibe to it, just because it's so offbeat. And then you have Ray Wise, of course, reminds you of that same character. Yeah. So I think you're really, really going to love it.
Oh, I will definitely check that out. And I love Tubi. Actually, I've been finding some good stuff on there lately.
Yeah, they really do have some good stuff. And their ads are not that intrusive either.
No, you don't even notice it. It's like it's because it's so few and far between that it's really not that bad.
Yeah, they're not bad at all. I would highly recommend Tubi, guys, if you are just looking for some free horror streaming content, because it's one of the few ad-supported streaming services that I don't mind the commercials at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content.
Next up, Brian, tell us about your haunted graveyard trip.
Yeah, so this is just a brief thing. I just put it on because I wanted to let you know to keep an eye out on social media over this weekend, because I will be at the haunted graveyard. First, we're doing Six Flags New England earlier today, but then we're going to go to Lake Compounce's famous haunted graveyard, which is that. I've gone the last few years. It's that 45-minute long walk-through haunt that just.
I wanted to go to this so bad.
Yeah, I was hoping Tim could get there. We'll get you there someday. We'll get you there, and it's great because the whole park. They have all the roller coasters open, and then you can do Boulder Dash at night, which is pretty. I mean, there's certain rides that are just up there with night rides. Boulder. The Voyage. The Beast, Fury. This one holds its own. I'm telling you, this is right up there. I've had some of the best coaster rides ever on the night rides there, and we'll hopefully see some of our coaster buddies there. I believe Dan and the T-shirt guy and Aunt Sue will be there. I think Tony's going to be there. I'm not sure who else is going to be there yet, but hopefully a couple of other of our good buddies will be there. But of course, I'm going to try and take as many pictures as I can of the the haunt stuff out there. Because, even actually Six Flags New England, during the day, there will be some stuff out there. Yeah. But we're not going to stay there for Fright Fest because we want to get back there. And Julie and I will be actually camping there over the weekend there, too. So I'll make sure I get some good stuff and try and tweet out and share on social media and stuff some good content from there. So that's really what I wanted to touch. I'll do a full review the following week.
Cool. I just couldn't make it up there this year because it was just a bad weekend. It's my mom's birthday weekend. We got a lot of stuff going on, but I'm hoping we can kind of plan that out earlier, maybe next year, and try to get me up there.
Yes.
So next up is Hell House LLC Lake of Fire, which debuted on SHUDDER, and this is the third installment in the Hell House series. And I'm interested to hear your take on it, Brian, because we may differ on our take for this one. I don't know.
Yes. So, I know we agreed on one part of it, one element that they did with that little glitch effect that was
Yes.
kind of a little distracting. But I mean, overall, I think I looked at it as, because this franchise is built a mythology. I mean, by far the first one hasn't been replicated yet. I mean, the second one was good, but a little bit, not as good as the first. And I think the third was good, but not as good as the second and first. So, but the thing is, I kind of looked at it maybe a little differently. I didn't look at it as a standalone film, which if I did, I may have had some more problems with it. But it is trying to kind of play upon the mythology that the first two created. And what I did like about it is how they tied that in. I didn't think it had as many creepy moments as the other two. And now the one thing is, what I will say about this, and they kind of say it, they kind of tell you that this is edited from previous footage together. So they have this feeling that you're watching a documentary a little bit more than, let's say, a found footage. And I think you need to understand that to judge the movie properly, because there are some what I like to call like found footage cheats in there. But the second one had it big time. This one had it, but I think I was expecting it, so it didn't bother me as much. And the fact that there was that little disclaimer at one point in there where it set it up as if you watch it. Like, I felt like I was watching a documentary more than I was a found footage film. And I think that's maybe why some of the problems, which I may have, if I went in just thinking it was a straight found footage, I may have kind of commented on a little more. But overall, I think it was good. It wasn't. Nothing has. I will say nothing has captured the magic that the first one had, because the first one did so many things that you hadn't really seen before in that same way in a found footage film. This, I think, was more almost. I think it had more of a more drama to it, and it lost a little bit of the found footage, like I said, but because it really was more documentary style than found footage. But I mean, I think it was fine. I enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it, so I definitely enjoyed it. I think if you like the first two, you'll still like this one at some level. I think some people, though, I could see why some people might not like it as much, though.
Yeah, I was definitely in the didn't like it as much camp. I mean, I agree. They tried to go back closer to the feel of the first one, which I did appreciate, but I had a lot of problems with it. I don't know what's wrong with me lately, Brian. I've been like super critical of movies.
Maybe watching 3 years straight of
I don't
tons
know.
and tons of horror films.
Am I getting bitter in my old age? I don't know, but I thought this one was boring. I didn't like I hated the glitch effect. I hated the reusing. I understand it's a documentary, but it's lazy to reuse footage from the first film and to pad it out. There were some elements of it that I did like, but for some reason, I don't know what's going on with these sequels to Hell House, because that was such a great movie. I think one of my problems too is the acting in 2 and 3 just feels like acting, whereas in the first one I thought it felt more authentic for some reason. And I don't know what the deal is, but I just didn't enjoy this one.
Well, the third one kind of, you can almost excuse the fact it was that, because it was basically based off of they were all actors in it.
True. Yeah.
So it was weird. Well, what I did like, I will say one more thing I did like about it is I kind of like the premise of it, that they were deciding to kind of like shoot this cool. Because I'm someone that appreciates like experimental type theater, and I think that was kind of cool. I like that element of it, that they were trying to do this version of Faust, and I thought it was, and I thought that was kind of cool, and I like the build. I don't know. It seems like I definitely liked it more than you, but I mean, I don't think it was. That I definitely don't. I could appreciate why some people wouldn't as like it as much. I mean, it's getting really good reviews. Because I think a lot of people just love the whole the mythology and the world that this has created, and they're working on. I know they're trying to work on a series now, an Abaddon Tapes series.
Yeah, I did read about that. Yeah,
so that should be interesting. Like maybe that'll be way more of a kind of a way to expand it a little bit without making it another full movie and having, like you said, maybe feeling the need to pad.
So next up, you're not going to be happy with my review of this one either, Brian.
Oh, no.
It Chapter 2.
Yeah, you are getting grumpy. I think I know what it is. I think it's because you want to turn into Mr. Autumn and you can't because it's too hot.
I can't
So
do
you have
it.
not been
It's
able
too
to
hot.
blurt out your sweater and your plaid shirt yet.
Yeah, so we went and saw It Chapter 2 the other night, and I will have to say, I liked it. I didn't love it. And there were some problems I had with it. Namely, well, let me tell you what I did like. I'll tell you what I did like. I thought the casting was phenomenal. I thought they did a fantastic job of casting the adults' versions of the young characters. I mean, some of them were just spot on. The guy that played Ben, even though he looks nothing like Ben, I totally bought into it. I don't know what it was. You know what you said? You said something about his smile or something?
Yeah, his expressions.
It was uncanny. It was very cool. So I totally bought into that. These were the grown-up versions of the kid characters. Love that part of it. One major problem I had with it, there's a couple major problems I had with it. Number one, I didn't think there was a good chemistry between the adult characters like there was with the kids. And I understand there's a reason behind that because they've been separated for 27 years and blah, 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 blah. But the movie, I think, missed some opportunities to make you feel like this really was the Losers Club back together again. I just never got that vibe from it. And the other thing I really puzzled me was the comedy just didn't land for me. When it wasn't Bill Hader's fault. Bill Hader was phenomenal in this movie, and there was and he had some great lines, and there was some great that stuff. That part of the humor, I did not have any problem with at all. But for some reason, like, the movie just wasn't scary to me. I don't know if it was because I knew what to expect from Pennywise or whatever, but some of the choices they made, and I can't go into it without giving spoilers, were just head-scratchingly bad comedic timing in places where the movie should be heightening the fear factor, and then they just would burst it with these stupid comedic things, and I just did not get that part of it at all. I was like, this was supposed to be scary, not a horror comedy.
Yeah, I didn't find it, the scare factor to me was not there. But then again, I take that thought process with a grain of salt because we do watch so many things. But
right, yeah. I don't know. I absolutely loved the first movie. I thought it was terrifying. This one, a sequel should be, I would hope a sequel would be scarier than the first one. And I don't know. There wasn't enough Pennywise in this one for me. And the Pennywise that was there was just so offbeat. Like I said, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a great time, not regretting in the least that I went and saw it at the theater. I didn't even get up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
in a freaking
it goes by fast for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
I was not bored. Don't get me wrong. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, but I did see the problems that were apparent with trying to adapt the grown-up version versus the kids version. I wish we could just had another movie with just the kids, honestly, and I'd have been perfectly happy. Except for Bill Hader. Maybe Bill Hader could come back because he was phenomenal.
Yeah. I thought the guy that played oh my God, I'm gonna botch his name. Not Richie, but is the other guy.
Eddie.
The guy, the adult that played Eddie was like scarily it looked like they just aged the kid.
It was crazy. Like I said, I don't have any problem with the casting. They were fantastic, but there was something that was off. I was watching an actual a video review of it, and one guy, actually two people, pointed this out. And I had not thought about it during the movie, but they said one of the reasons they thought that there was such a disconnect between the adult versions of the kids is that in the middle of the movie, they split them all up. For an extended section of the movie, they're by themselves, and you don't get to see that camaraderie.
when they go to get their quote unquote thing,
and a lot of the major problems people had with it was that middle segment. I wish if that could have been tightened up somehow, I think it would have been a much, much better movie. But anyway, it's done. It's we got both movies, and at some point I'm sure down the road I'll be binge watching an It marathon at some point because I did not dislike the movie. I just wish it had been tightened up in some ways, and maybe some of the humor replaced with a little bit more scares.
They can't all. I mean, they can't all write as humorous as you and I, Tim.
That's
we
right.
Just have to. We have to face that fact.
I guess so.
Speaking
of humor,
I was gonna just say that. See, that's how in sync Tim and I are. We
are.
can disagree slightly on our reviews, and then get right back into sync and almost say the same thing. Look at that.
Yeah, Barbara Crampton face. We're trying to get trending on Twitter.
I think we're starting because I kind of made a comment on when it was Gigi Sol Guerrero started this by saying, hey, I took my best picture of my Barbara Crampton face, and I kind of made a comment Civil Gore, and I said, oh, we need a side-by-side for, what did I say, for accuracy and awesomeness.
Yeah.
And then some other people started to just kind of go, no, I'm not taking claim for this. I'm just saying I was I was on board. We were on board with it. And so then other people started taking pictures with their version of the Barbara Crampton face, which is literally just her. Like, it's funny because I did notice it, like, subconsciously, that when she posed in pictures, she has this big, like, kind of grin, and and it's like, and so it's kind of like that side, it's almost like, Felissa Rose has her face that she does at cons, but
it's almost like an emoji. It's like almost like the emoji smiling face. It's like
it is
half open mouth smile.
Yes, it like we need a Barbara Crampton emoji is what we need next. But so what was great is so people started doing that, and then there was one and I said this needs to be trending, hashtag Barbara Crampton face, and then Tim jumped on and with our good friend and mascot Parker Decomposey did their version of the Barbara Crampton face, and Barbara Crampton herself liked it, commented on it, and then retweeted it. We got the trifecta.
That's right.
Which was great, and that made our day.
Yeah, so send us tweet us your Barbara Crampton faces, and make sure you hashtag it Barbara Crampton face.
Yes,
and she might like it.
Yes, because she's awesome, by the way.
She is.
But that's one of my dream guests. We need to have her on someday.
Yeah. So next up, the Shining restoration version is coming to theaters September 26th and October 1st, which is this weekend. Oh, and my daughter got
Parker Decomposey's cell phone.
It's Barbara Crampton. Hi, Barbara. How are you doing? No, it's actually
look at
that. It's actually my daughter. She got a new phone, so she's super excited.
Wow.
So the Shining restoration version is coming to theaters September 26th and October 1st. I am going to have to go see this because I'm such a huge Shining fan, and I've been wanting to see this version. And we got a little surprise coming up a little bit later for you guys that want to see this version.
Yes.
Which we'll tell you about shortly. This is the version that was restored by people that know how to restore this movie. I can't remember exactly who was overseeing the restoration, but it's legit. So this is the version you're going to want to see.
Yeah, this is like what you're getting on the 4K Blu-ray, basically.
Right. Yeah,
that's coming. So so this will be really really cool. Yeah, I want to try and get to see it in theaters too. I may have to go see it on the October 1st date. But because I don't know. No, maybe I might be able to see 20. What is 26 this Thursday?
Yeah,
I might be able to go see that.
I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to do Thursday, but I may be able to do the October 1st one. It's just a weird. I wish they would do it on the weekend, but
they did it weird nice. But I mean, this is something that I've always kind of wanted to see in the theater anyway. So
yeah, me too.
This will be cool.
Walmart has some exclusive Child's Play 3 Chucky and Hellraiser 3 Chatterer. What is this, Brian?
Oh, sorry. I meant it's the Pops, the Funko Pops.
Okay,
there
cool.
Was I was typing this fast. So Walmart's got two things. It's Chucky from Child's Play 3, so he's all like bloodied and everything, and like half like decaying and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Chatterer from Hellraiser 3.
Which is my favorite Cenobite, by the way.
Yeah, mine too. And so that's an exclusive to Walmart. So keep an eye out when you go to Walmart. Walmart's got some, they always have good Halloween stuff. Like, that's where I finally found those pumpkin truffle chips, which I need to experiment with. And, they always have some great stuff. So they're going to have exclusive this year, which is pretty cool.
Nice. And finally, we had a chance to watch Friday the 13th Vengeance, which is the Friday the 13th fan film that is on YouTube. And I really enjoyed this one, Brian. Lots of kills. Oh, my God. You could tell this is a fan movie. So many
because
kills.
This goes out, like, they want kills, they want blood, they want vicious Jason, they want... And it's really like they basically, this is a true fan film in every way possible because it's all fan service.
It is,
but not to a detriment, and to a positive in every way.
And I loved how they blended multiple aspects of the whole Jason mythology together into a
Yeah.
movie. Like, it was really well thought out, the mythology and stuff, the way they some of the characters they introduced and how they did it. I just loved I loved the whole storyline in this one. It was really cool.
Yeah, and it's cool because they brought back the there's links to all the other survivors, or actually not all survivors, but basically names you'll recognize if and there's even some little bits of they tie into how it's interesting how they'll tie in how Tommy Jarvis's how his whole family is involved and everything. It's just really, really cool. And of course you have the late Steve Dash, who played Jason, playing a cop, which is hilarious in this.
Yeah.
He's great. And you have CJ Graham, who a former Jason, playing Elias Voorhees. And so this is basically and they even kind of poke fun at some of the other sequels with a couple of lines you got to hear where you're not sure if that they're counting that sequel or not, or they're just making it's really, really funny because it's supposed to be basically 30 years after Friday the 13th Part 6.
Right.
So it's really, really cool. And there's a lot of familiar faces you'll see in there. Darcy the Mail Girl.
Yep.
Is in there.
You'll see a lot of her, actually.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of her. And yeah, so there's also as a bonus, we got actually one of our listeners, David McHugh, had wrote in and said one of his good friends was actually in it, and I guess she won a contest. So we're going to have her coming on in a few minutes to discuss that with her. So we'll just we'll ask her about her experience on there and about the contest and everything. So that'll be a fun little bonus interview.
Yeah.
See how what it was like to be on the ultimate Friday the 13th fan film.
Yeah. So let's roll that interview right now, Brian.
Sounds good. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, there's a great film called fan film, Friday the 13th Vengeance. And one of our listeners, David McHugh, he actually said that one of his friends actually won a contest to be in the movie and basically get killed by Jason. So we thought that would be a great opportunity to talk to her and find out all about the set and what happened and how the whole thing came to be. So welcome to Civil Gore, Toyia Williams.
Hi. Thank you, Tim and Brian, for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
All right, so Latoya, tell us a little bit about yourself first before we get into how you won this contest and everything.
Well, I'm just your average mom, wife. I am a social worker, so that is what I do by day. And in my off time, I'm a big, huge horror fan. I enjoy everything Halloween, everything fall, everything scary. And really, I'm just your regular, everyday kind of gal. I don't have any acting experience or anything like that, so it was really cool to be on set with people who have done so.
Now, were you a fan of Friday the 13th franchise before this?
Yes, I was. Like I said, I'm an 80s horror fan, so that kind of gives away my age.
That's us too. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Right. So when this opportunity came about was basically I was on Facebook and just kind of scrolling through, and one of the horror pages that I follow, Forever Horror, there was a video that was posted by Peter Anthony, who just asked, hey, if you're interested in being killed by this guy, which was Jason, of course, just send in $99. They were going to donate money to the Shriners Children's Hospital. So it was a raffle for $99.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
so
cool.
basically my husband was like, you should do it. You always win stuff. And I was like, not really. When have I won anything? And so I said, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So I just sent in PayPal my $99, and that was back in March at that time frame when they were promoting it. And I think the actual time frame would have been within the next 2 weeks. So it was basically I sent in my $99, and then that was it. I didn't really think much of it.
That's cool though. There was
Yeah.
so they just like wrote back to you. They're like, "Hey, guess what? You won. Now we're gonna kill you on screen."
Well, actually, there was this big long page on there that just stated, hey, if you get killed by Jason, basically this is what's going to happen. We're going to take everybody's name and we're going to put them in a fishbowl and then we're going to shake it around and we're going to just pull a name. It was simple as that. It was no generators or anything like that. It was basically just put a piece of paper in a fishbowl that you could see and to make it fair. And
Oh.
I just was blown away because at the time when he went live, when Peter Anthony, who was one of the directors, went live, I was not even thinking about like it was going to go right then. I was outside with my husband. We were actually grooming our dog Charlie, and during that time frame, wasn't really focused on oh, the raffle. I was grooming the dog, and I think there was probably maybe 30 or 40 people who had put in there by that time frame, put their name into the fishbowl. And it was a long video. It was like a 10 or 12 minute video, live video of Peter actually taking each name, pulling it out, showing it, and then putting it in the fishbowl.
Oh my
So
God.
Oh, cool.
yeah. So I kept going back and forth, kind of looking and checking in, going back to trim the dog. And then I went back probably 15 minutes later because I was like, oh my gosh, it's taking forever. And I realized I was the winner. And so at that point, I'm running around my backyard with my dog half groomed, looking like it could be the next Cujo. And it was just, I had to play it back. Did they really pull my name? Like, really? And it was just very exciting.
So did they, I guess, did they pay for you to come down to the filming, or you had to do that yourself?
No, everything was all inclusive. So after that was basically, I got a call from Peter who was like, okay, so my PayPal was under my maiden name. And so it said a different name. And so then he contacted me and was like, are you the winner? Because we picked out a different name. And I said, oh, that was under my maiden name. I apologize if you got you confused. But yes, so after that point, he was like, okay, so I'm going to get you in contact with Sean, who is a co-producer, Sean Loudest. And he contacted me a couple of days later and got the ball rolling with airline tickets, room and board at the hotel for a night, food on set. All of that was taken care of. And luckily, I was flown out to Seattle. So luckily I had friends and family there so I could prolong the trip.
Oh,
And
cool.
they were allowed to come on set as well, a couple of them, with me during the filming.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that was nice. It was first class, by the way, too, on the plane.
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
Nice. See, I need to get a gig getting killed by Jason because I don't.
Sounds like a fun time, yeah.
It was very fun.
And you kind of had, I have to say, you had a cool like a throwback kill to like kind of like from Friday the 13th Part 5 with the two people in the car, and I was like, wow, this is good because that's what I loved about this movie actually is all the fan service. So did they tell you like when you got there that okay, we're gonna do this is what the kill is, or you had no clue until you got there and
I
stuff?
had no clue. In my mind for weeks, we're just walking around going, I promise I'm not going to trip and fall over anything. I'm not just, I just had no idea what, and they just kept saying, oh, you just wait. Jason's going to do dirty business on you. And I'm like, oh gosh, that could be anything. So yeah, I was a little nervous about how that was going to go down. And then once I got on set, they kind of filled us in like last minute because actually I flew in on a Saturday and was going to film on Sunday, but we got straight to filming on that Saturday. As soon as I got off the plane, basically we went on set because of the weather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So everything was pretty much just, bam, we got to do this now.
That's like a whirlwind trip. I mean, I can't imagine like jumping on a plane, like hopping off, get killed by Jason. You have no idea what's going on.
Right. It was. I was jet lagged and I was like, really, we have to do it today? I was like, okay. Up on set. So basically got straight on set. They were doing some filming, and I was sitting in the chair getting my makeup done and getting wardrobe and all of that. And it was actually about 48 to 49 degrees outside. So we are freezing when you watch this movie.
Wow.
Oh.
Now, did you get a chance to meet some of the other actors? Obviously, the ones you were in the scene with, but did you get a chance to meet some of the other actors and stuff like that?
Yes, a few of them. Not any of the big name ones, you know. I really would have loved to have gotten to meet Steve before he passed away.
Yeah.
That was that was sad. But, you know, I wanted to really meet him, and I didn't get that opportunity. But I did get to, of course, meet Jeremy Brown. So he was the director. But yeah, most scenes had already been filmed before we got there. So it was pretty much, this is the last few things we have to do. And yeah, so I missed out on all of that. But hey, this experience was amazing.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah,
you definitely had one of the better kills, and not just I think in this movie, but let alone like the franchise, because it's kind of a brutal kill there. I mean, you know, it's like, and then I guess your friend in the car got pretty much right after got a pretty nasty kill too. So you actually had one of the you ended up for something that was like a contest type of thing. You ended up having one of the more memorable scenes in that movie.
And like I said, I had no idea what was going to happen. They just kind of told us. And then they said, you know, Reagan will be in the car. You're going to fix the vehicle. And it was just like, all right, let's go, action. And I'm like, what do we say? We didn't have a script. So we ad-libbed our.
Oh, man. Well, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. They cut out my dance scene. I did have some smooth moves. But that got cut out.
Ah. So did this give you like now, like after that though, you like have like a horror acting bug? Like now you want to start going in like other horror movies and stuff?
Actually, yes. There was a movie that was filmed here called The Pale Door. I'm in Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma City they were wanting extras in other roles for a film, and I tried out for that. I didn't get it, but yes, the bug has hit me.
Well, if Civil Gore ever makes a movie, we'll definitely keep you in mind for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, yeah.
You have a role no matter what. So.
Hey, I love it. I love it.
So Toyia, is your husband also into horror? Is he also a horror fan?
He is not.
Oh.
Okay.
So he's the crazy one, you know, that probably needs to settle down with all of my horror and gore. But, you know, I am who I am.
That's right. Yeah,
But-
my wife she likes horror movies, but she's not nearly into it at the same level as I am.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the same with mine. It's like I think they like them, but to a point, and they tolerate, I guess, me and Tim's enthusiasm for them. But I don't know. I think that might be where it ends. But see now though that he's married to someone that's been killed by Jason, he's got to kind of get into it, I think.
Well, yes, he did go to his office and tell everyone about it, and they thought he was the coolest dude at work.
So did you get to keep any of the props, like any of the makeup effects or anything from?
No, I did not. A lot of that I think went to when they did the opening for the Blairstown Museum.
Oh, right, I saw that.
Ago. And I honestly did not make it to that. I wanted to, but I did not.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
So if you had a dream project, like someone else they came up to you and they're like, all right, we're going to give you any kind of horror movie project you want. What would it be? Would it be another Friday the 13th movie or something else?
Honestly, one of my favorite movies is The Lost Boys. So if there was some type of remake of that or a Phantasm, something in that area, I would jump on it.
We love Phantasm. We actually just did that over the summer as our we have the series of Summer Slaycation where we pick a franchise and go through all the movies, and we just did Phantasm. And Tim had been a big fan of Phantasm. For me, I had only I think seen the first one. So, but after seeing this, I absolutely love the series.
Yes. The Tall Man, rest in peace. Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, Toyia, do you get a chance to go into any horror conventions? I know in Oklahoma, I don't know if there's a lot out there because usually East Coast and West Coast.
No, there are not a lot out here. Maybe once every 5 years or so there'll be a good one, but no, I don't. If I travel, it's up east.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, actually, we met. Like, I was going to ask you, like, what the crew and the whole cast was like that you did get to interact with, because we met some of them at the New Jersey Horror Con. They were there. They had a booth, and we were talking. I think it was the woman that played the one of the cops. She was there.
Jules, yes.
Yeah, and I think do you remember who else? I think was the director there, Tim? I can't remember. There's a couple of producers
Peter.
there. I know that.
Yeah, I can't remember. He probably was. I can't off the top of my head remember because it was a while back, but
Okay.
we met several of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been waiting for this for a while. This movie.
Well, Jules, I didn't get to meet Jules, but a lot of the like Jason and Jeremy, Peter, I didn't meet with Peter, but I'm telling you, the cast that was on set, they were all friendly. They were amazing. They were like real down to earth people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel uncomfortable at all in that environment. So they had their arms open and was like, all right, we're ready to kill you.
Actually, I meant to ask you that. I was thinking that before. So you hear a lot of stories when because one of the things I always watch, we watch all the special features on the Blu-rays and stuff, and they always talk about, you always hear that the victims, so to speak, are going to, like, they don't know when the kill is actually coming, and it startles them. How was that real? Like, did you have no idea when it was coming, or you kind of?
I had an idea, but I didn't know. I actually got injured when I went down.
Oh, no.
It was a slight cut that I had on my face. It wasn't a big deal. It blended in with the fake blood. But no, it was just kind of like, it's because I didn't know when he was going to do it. I knew that he was going to do it, but I didn't know when. And I saw the fog. The fog always sets off the momentum for a kill, so that's going to happen. And so the fog just appeared, and I was like, oh, it's about to happen, but when?
Yeah, see, I think that's the thing I would be able to, like, I think I'd have a price, because that it's the anticipation that gets me, like if I know something's going to happen, but I don't know exactly when, I'm always on edge, but
yeah. Well, you had to try to remember your lines, because remember, I didn't have a script. So once I ad-libbed it, I had to remember it and then say it over and over. And
yeah, how many takes did it take you guys? Do you remember?
We got it from different angles, so probably about 12 takes.
Oh,
just
wow.
to make sure we got it from different angles, on top of the car, different. So the angle that you see, I was kind of like, hey, there could have been a better angle that I got killed from. But yeah, no, it was great.
They should have sent you all, like, the dailies. You could have all the footage. Like,
I know. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. They're still working on it to make it perfect.
Yeah, because we saw it. What's great is that it's right now. It's out there for free, so it's great that all the fans could see it, because that movie is just filled with such fan service. So that's great that anyone can access it.
Right. And see, I know that Jeremy had stated, who was the producer, had said he wanted to go back and do a few editing things, some touches here, some touches there before it's released on DVD. So even though it was perfect, he's going to go back and really make it more perfect.
Oh, cool. Because I thought it was great the way it was. I loved it. I've actually watched it twice so far. So I liked it. So, and now it was better knowing that now we know somebody in it, so we could say, like,
we know an official victim. That's cool.
Yes.
Yes, and I survived.
Yeah.
So I guess one last thing I guess I want to ask too is, like, so what's your not counting this one, what's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Ooh, that's a good one. Of course, the first one, because Mama's doing all the killing for her baby.
Yeah.
But honestly, Jason Lives. So yeah, Jason Lives.
That's my favorite as well.
Yeah, same with us. And actually, we discussed it when we did. That was our first summer slaycation, the first year of our podcast. We did all the Friday the 13th, and we came up with almost that exact same thing. It's because the first one added, like, almost out of respect, you gotta, like. Yeah. But like the sixth one, Jason Lives, was always one of my favorites. I don't know. There was just some kind of, like, almost like a rock and roll feel to it, like a really excitement to it, because I think it had just. Like, I think there was because obviously part 5 didn't have the quote unquote real Jason, and so the fact that he came back and it was, Tommy was it? Yeah. So it was great.
Yeah. So Jason Lives. That's my favorite.
Nice. Well, Toyia, thanks so much for coming on. It was very fascinating to hear about somebody that's actually been killed by the man.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was really neat to hear how you won that contest, and so I'm very happy you got to do that. That just seems like a horror fan's dream. That's really, really cool.
It is. That was one of my bucket list items.
Oh, wow.
Seriously, I wanted to honestly be a zombie maybe on The Walking Dead. Like, that was something that I thought, oh, that would be amazing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got this opportunity to be killed by Jason, which is number one on the list there.
Yeah, I think that would have to be up on my list too.
Yeah, I still got to find a way to get killed by Michael Myers because he's filming in my hometown right now.
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah, I got to sneak on set somehow and get.
That might get it done because
I might actually get really killed if I try to do that though.
You might. Be careful.
All right, Toyia, thanks so much, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Many more kills under your belt.
Yes, and of course, if you do any other future projects and you want to come promote it, just say the word, just send us a message, and we'll put you on and help you spread the word on it.
Oh, you guys are awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Good night.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, so that was a great interview. Very interesting to hear from somebody that got to be killed by Jason. That's definitely a first for the podcast.
Yeah, we haven't talked to anyone yet that has been killed by Jason.
I've been nearly choked by Kane Hodder, but not by
true.
Jason himself. So
yes, that does not count.
All right, guys, so let's get right into our Blu-ray releases for October 1st. We're into October already.
Woo-hoo.
This is our Discmemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't cut off my...
All right, first up, Brian, we got a quick release to tell you about. This is just kind of one of those, I don't know what you even call these, kind of little, I consider them like almost little promo releases. This is a 2-movie collection of Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2018. So not something us horror fans would necessarily go for because we've got better versions of those discs singly. But for the mainstream mass market, it's kind of a cool little combo there. So first up, we got another new studio, and they're releasing 2 discs this week. This is Leomark Studios, and they're both of these films are by director Donald F. Glut or Glut. I don't know, Glut or Glut. Glut sounds kind of
definitely more horror-y.
Definitely horror-y, yeah. Glut sounds more like bodybuilder, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think unless he's like doing bodybuilding documentaries. I think we'll go with Glut.
Yeah. So Brian, you're going to be first up this week because I'm going to make you guess the very first movie, and I threw you a softball this week because I felt so bad for you. Yeah. So I say. So this one is called Tales of Frankenstein, and it stars John Blythe Barrymore, Buddy Daniels Friedman, and Jim Tavare. What is Tales of Frankenstein?
Well, now I know this sounds so easy, but just that the tone in your voice tells me it's not going to be. And I'm thinking back to when I saw that, oh my God, what's that guy's name? Paul Naschy film that was like called The House of Frankenstein, and it had not one thing to do with Frankenstein, but more of a Wolfman. So I am thinking that this has nothing to do with Frankenstein's monster whatsoever, and I think it's about a killer hot dog vendor named Frankenstein. No, I'm only kidding. No, I have a feeling it's very loosely associated with Frankenstein's monster, and it's probably just some kind of like story with as a parallel character that mimics someone that's like the Frankenstein's monster, and he's kind of like an outcast, and he just keeps getting himself into trouble.
Okay, that's your final answer? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, this is literally stories about Frankenstein. This is based upon 4 of writer-director Donald F. Glut's short stories published in his book Tales of Frankenstein. My Creation, My Beloved, a deformed descendant of Victor Frankenstein creates the perfect man and woman. Crawler from the Grave, another Frankenstein descendant's disembodied plague-infected arm returns from the grave for revenge. Madhouse of Death, a private detective winds up in an old dark house filled with loonies and a gorilla. And Dr. Karnstein's Creation, a mad doctor creates a monster in vampire-haunted Transylvania with gruesomely unexpected results. So it's a Frankenstein anthology. I actually want to read that book. That sounds cool.
Yeah, actually, now that movie does sound cool, too.
Yeah, it does.
Much better than my meta version of it, or whatever I was going for.
See, you overthought it. It. All right, next up is Blood Scarab. This is also by Donald F. Glutt, and it stars Monique Parent, Del Howison, and Brink Stevens.
Oh,
and
Brink Stevens.
Let me tell you,
Queen.
This summary is too long to read on the air. I know you guys cannot believe that, because we've read some long summaries, but they literally did a synopsis of the entire movie. So I just did the first line. Countess Elizabeth Bathory, or Battery, depending on how you pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Yeah.
History's infamous lesbian vampire. I don't think that's historically accurate, but we'll go with it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but...
Who centuries ago bathed in the blood of virgins to preserve her youth, arrives from Transylvania to take over the Los Angeles castle of Count Dracula. I didn't know he had an LA home, but her vampire husband. And...
Is this One's Bitten also?
It does sound like it.
One's Bitten.
This one also has a very big mummy plot to it. That's why it's called Blood Scarab. So there's also a mummy involved, and there's Renfield involved. I mean, it's like every Universal monster thing is in this movie. So this one sounds really cool as well. I did get a chance to watch the trailers for these, unfortunately. I just got tied up.
Oh, I didn't either, actually, today.
Yeah, sorry,
pressed for time on today. But
yeah, but most of these you wouldn't need to, because you're going to know what they are anyway.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Shout Factory. Only one disc released this week. It's called Itsy Bitsy from this year.
See, I've seen this trailer already a while ago. So
yeah, I did too. This one is directed by Micah Gallo, starring Bruce Davison, Elizabeth Roberts, and Denise Crosby.
Ah, friend Denise Crosby.
Yeah. Based on the centuries-old poem, a family moves into a secluded mansion where they soon find themselves being targeted by an entity taking the form of a giant spider. And this one has some cool features. It's got 2 audio commentaries, one with director-writer Micah Gallo and one with director-writer Micah Gallo and writers Brian Dick and Jason Alvino. Featurettes, The Spider Beginnings and Itsy Bitsy The Journey, Denise on Set, Kickstarter.
We've had that already. We've talked to Denise. We had our own personal Denise on set.
That's right. Lovely lady, too, by the way. She's very lovely.
Awesome.
Kickstarter mini featurettes. The Most Spidery Spider. Andy Dick screen test for Itsy Bitsy. And
what?
Yeah, I guess. Andy Dick somehow in this. Storyboard gallery and trailers. So this one sounds interesting, especially if you don't like spiders, which my wife does not. She hates spiders. But
I don't either.
My Halloween display this year will be largely spider-oriented, because last year we bought a giant spider web and a big inflatable spider and some big, giant, 3-foot spiders. So I'm going to reuse all that stuff, and I also bought a 6-foot hanging corpse cocoon to hang off the tree, because now the spider has claimed a victim. So I'll send you pictures of that when we're going to actually decorate this.
Wait a minute, I'll be there for it. I'll be able to see it in person.
Oh, you'll be able to see it in person. We'll post pics on Instagram for the listeners, though.
Yes.
That sounds cool. Sony's got a Zombieland 4K 10th anniversary edition coming out this week. This one is directed by Ruben Fleischer, starring, of course, Jesse Eisenberg, which I don't know what happened to Jesse Eisenberg. I haven't seen him lately. Emma Stone and Woody Harrelson. You guys know what Zombieland is. A shy student trying to reach his family in Ohio, blah, 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 blah. They fight zombies. This one has some cool special features. It's got an HDR presentation of the film, a all-new Raised from the Dead Zombieland, a decade later featurette, behind the scenes featurette, shooting zombies with Ruben Fleischer, theatrical trailer, picture-in-picture track, audio commentary with filmmakers and cast, 2 more In Search of Zombieland featurettes, deleted scenes, visual effects progression scenes, and theatrical promo trailers. So if you guys are getting ready for Zombieland double tapped, this is your disc right here.
Yeah, they don't. That's why I think this dismemberment was a little off today, because really it's repeat stuff and stuff that really the trailers we've seen already.
Yeah, it's a lot of reissues this week. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view. Speaking of which, Universal is coming out with the House of Hitchcock collection. This one is very similar. I think it's the same movies as the previous Hitchcock collection that came out. And that one includes Saboteur, Shadow of a Doubt, Rope, Rear Window, The Trouble with Harry, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, The Birds, Marnie, Torn Curtain, Topaz, Frenzy, and Family Plot. Now, this one does add some exclusives just to this set. 7 TV episodes from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, 3 TV episodes from the Alfred Hitchcock Hour.
I wonder if that one I like. Remember with the guy that gets buried?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that's in there.
Documentaries, expert audio commentaries, interviews, screen test. And what's really unique to this set, number one, it comes in a case that looks like the Psycho House, which is really, really cool. And then it also has all these like material type extras like letters, blueprints, art cards, booklet. So if you're into that kind of tactile extras in your DVD sets, this one has a ton of it. It looks like a really cool set. It's like 80 some bucks.
Wow.
I don't know if it would be, I mean, if you had not had the previous set, obviously this would be the one to go for if you like all those extras. But I should have looked at the price of the previous set to see if it's still in print and if you can get it cheaper. Because if you just want the movies, I think the old set is probably cheaper.
Yeah, the only thing is I have a couple of these already, the single versions of it, so am I double dipping for the
Yeah.
thing that, because I think you can get, I think there's an Alfred Hitchcock Presents box set also, like the, I want to say, I saw that was coming out at some point the next year or so. So I don't know. I don't know about this one if I'm going to pull the trigger on this at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be buying it mainly because I've got the horror stuff already.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be buying it for the horror stuff. It'd be for the other films. And I don't know if if I got $80 to blow on Blu-ray, it's probably not going to be non-horror personally. So Universal's also coming out with Doom Annihilation. This is, of course, based off the Doom video game series. This came out this year, directed by Tony Giglio.
Giglio.
Giglio. It's probably some like, it's probably like Brian said, it's like Giglio or something.
Yeah. Depends how good the movie is, how you pronounce his name, I think.
Follows a group of UAC Marines as they respond to a distress call from a top-secret scientific base on Phobos, a Martian moon, only to discover it's been overrun by demons who threaten to create hell on Earth. And wasn't there a Doom movie starring The Rock?
Yeah, this is like, I think, the sequel to that without him in it. Usually he comes in like the 7th film, so this is odd that he was out after the first one.
Yeah, sorry, beer time. All right, Warner Brothers is coming out with a Gremlins 4K disc, and the reason I'm listing these 4K releases is because these actually had some pretty good extras on them. They're not just straight reissues. This one is has a I put on here. It stars Biff Block, and Zach Galligan.
He does.
He's a Biff Blocker.
He will be ever known as the Biff Blocker.
The Biff Blocker. If you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to our New Jersey HorrorCon recap episode.
Yes,
you'll know all. This one has some cool stuff. It's got an HDR presentation of the film, filmmaker's commentary with Joe Dante, Michael Fennell, producer, and special effects artist Chris Wallace. Cast commentary with Joe Dante, Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Dick Miller, and Howie Mandel. Gremlins behind-the-scenes featurette, additional scenes with commentary, photo gallery, theatrical trailers, some additional scenes, some featurettes, 2 motion comics, and which I've seen before, and a couple other features. I like this one, Hanging with Hoyt. That one's pretty fun.
Yeah. He looks like a fun guy to hang out with, Hoyt, actually.
He really does.
Doesn't he?
He does. So I've already got Gremlins on Blu-ray. I don't know if it'd be worth bumping up to this version. I don't have 4K TV yet, so.
Yeah, same here. I may look this year, towards this February, I think was my goal for, when they have those Super Bowl sales. That's when I was going to look to see if it was time to just get the 4K. So I think I was trying to get one more year out of my existing TV, so.
Yeah, I need to upgrade. They're getting so cheap now, they're practically giving them away, so.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have my pick of the week. Brian, I didn't see if you agreed with this one.
Yeah, mine's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't pick the Hitchcock set is primarily because it's mostly non-horror and because it's been released in a similar fashion before. So that's why I didn't want to, even though I'm usually a sucker for those big box sets with all the extras as my pick of the week, that's why I didn't pick that one. Instead, I went with one that we alluded to earlier in our first chop, and that is the Shining 4K release. So this is what you're getting when you go to the theater to see this this new restoration. This is what you're getting on the Blu-ray. It has an audio commentary by Steadicam inventor Garrett Brown and Stanley Kubrick biographer John Baxter. And this is the Kubrick's 146-minute cut of the movie. Video from the Overlook, Crafting the Shining featurette. The Visions of Stanley Kubrick featurette. The Making of the Shining documentary. And composer Wendy Carlos reflects on working with complex auteur Stanley Kubrick and developing musical scores for The Shining and A Clockwork Orange. So some pretty cool features there, but you're going to be buying this disc just for that 4K restoration. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I've heard it's really, really good.
Yeah, I could see that being like one of the first, when I do upgrade to 4K, one of the first ones I get for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I cannot wait to see this in 4K.
Yeah, it's probably just absolutely amazing. More the sound. I know 4K is visuals, but from what I understand, they remastered the sound as well, and I'm really looking forward to that.
And Stanley Kubrick had such an eye for cinematography, and all his films are just so spectacular. Like, I cannot wait to see what this is going to look like in that with that restoration. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, let's get to our main feature. We decided this week, we were kind of bouncing around ideas of what movie to do this week, and I kind of didn't want to do a newer movie again because we had done so many in a row. And Brian came up with a brilliant suggestion, which was in honor of the CREEPSHOW TV series coming out on Shudder this week. We decided to go with CREEPSHOW 2, which we had not done before. We did CREEPSHOW way back in the day.
Right, yes, early. Civil Gore Season 1, I believe.
Season 1, yeah. I should have looked up the exact episode number, but you guys, if you go to Letterboxd and look up Civil Gore, we have the movies we've covered, and it's up to date now. So all the movies we've featured on the podcast, we have a list for that. So go check that out, and you can see what episode we did each movie. And I'm working on the master list, which will show every movie we've ever mentioned on the podcast. I'm about halfway through that effort. That's a huge effort, by the way. But we're already up to over 600 movies, and I'm only up to episode 50, so...
Tim has been pouring the hours.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really cool resource because any movie you can think of, you can go in there and look it up and see, oh, they discussed that in the first chop on episode 32 and in the dismemberment on episode 27, and so it's pretty cool. It's going to be a pretty cool reference. So let's talk CREEPSHOW 2. Now, I remember, Brian, when I first saw this, I was fairly let down because CREEPSHOW was one of my favorites of all time, and this is obviously inferior to CREEPSHOW. However, I think it has grown in popularity over the years. I think people look back on it more fondly than perhaps we did back when it came out.
Yeah, and I remember being such a fan, watching the first one so much. When I saw that there was one coming out, and I remember seeing the trailer for it, I flipped. I could not wait. So there could have been of what, to coin the phrase we learned from Coaster Radio, their anticipatment.
Yeah.
Because, you expect so much. And I remember growing up, I mean, I did not like the first story. Now I absolutely love it. So, and I love all three stories in it. So, it's funny. It's like you might be right. It may just be as it's grown over the years, as you separate it from being excited for a sequel to live up to the original. Now you're just looking at it as kind of just another CREEPSHOW movie. Right.
Yeah. And one of the things I appreciated this time around is the effects and how they padded out the movie to 3 30-minute segments, essentially, is what they did. I think initially, I love anthologies that have a ton of stories because, the more stories you have, the more chance you have of some of them being really good, right?
Right.
And CREEPSHOW tended to have like a lot of good stories. There's hardly a clunker in the bunch, and there was 5 of them. So obviously it was going to be hard to top that. And instead what they did is they went back and said, okay, instead of just cramming a bunch in here, which they originally had planned to, as we'll get into the trivia a little bit later, they pared it down to 3 and just spent their time on doing really good half-hour segments of those. So on the rewatch, I tried to look at it not as this has fewer stories than CREEPSHOW 1. I just looked at it as an anthology, a standalone anthology. Is this entertaining? Even if it has 3 stories, most anthologies have 3 stories, really. So I kind of looked at it that way, and I think I appreciated it a little more with them being able to take their time on each story this time around. So yeah, let's talk about the first story. The first story is called Old Wooden Head, and it's your basic EC horror comics revenge tale, which Tales from the Crypt used to do this a lot. because it's based off the EC horror comics. I mean, Tales from the Crypt and CREEPSHOW are based off the same source material, right? And
See, maybe that's why you got that mixed up that time. That's probably what happened.
oh, it's totally what happened. It's totally what
Yeah.
happened. But they're both based off the same source material, so you see the same common story over and over and over again. And I go back and read those a lot because I've got collections of those. And you start seeing the same stories over and over again, sort of like we talked about with Twilight Zone, with
Yeah.
these revenge tales where somebody does somebody wrong, and then some supernatural element comes back to take revenge. Even the wraparound story in CREEPSHOW 2 is that same way.
Yeah, it's all the same kind of style, which is fine, which is good, and that's what I think made this actually a really good movie.
Yeah. So the first story, we have a wooden Indian. I'm going to call him Indian he's a Native American, obviously, politically correct.
Yes.
But we're going to call him Indian for this because image you have in your head of a wooden Indian is one of those statues that you'd see out in the front of like a general store.
Yeah, like they call them the cigar store Indians. I
Right,
believe
yeah,
is
they would call- that's
term.
what
It's
they
like
called
that Seinfeld episode where Kramer bought one, and yeah.
Yeah, so we have a tale where you've got George Kennedy in a fantastic role. I love George Kennedy. In
Oh my
anything.
God, he's awesome.
And he's the shopkeeper and a really nice guy. And he loves the wooden Indian. In fact, we see him putting war paint on. We call him Old Chief, I think.
Old Wooden Head.
Old Wooden
I think
Head,
they call-
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he owns this shop, and he gets wronged by a bunch of thugs in town.
The group was led by this one member of the Native American tribe that was just outside of town, and I guess his uncle was the one that had come in just before and gave them the village's like most prized possessions as kind of a collateral.
Right.
And he said, he goes, if we don't pay you in 2 autumns, which I assume is 2 years or a year. I guess a year you don't. Because 2 autumns. So
Ooh, I would love 2 autumns.
I know. Yes, you can be Mr. Autumn twice. But so he comes in right after he's just made the collateral deal with him, but he's no good. He's one of these guys that he wants to be famous, so he grow his hair, and he's just trying to basically apparently he's just no good, in trouble, and he's got 2 buddies with him that go along with him, and they're gonna rob the store and get money and drive out to LA so he could be famous, kind of a thing. And they just go in, so I guess they had been there before, and he kind of threw him out for stealing, and they decide to come back, and this time they're really just destroying the store. Like the one fat guy's eating all his food up, and the other guy's smashing stuff around, and it's so it's basically. But of course, what happens is eventually there's the accident where he, I don't think he meant to kill the wife. It was an accident.
No, it's a robbery gone wrong typical
Right,
situation.
right. And
yeah.
so then George Kennedy, goes towards him to really towards his wife, and I guess this guy at this point he's panicked, and he knows the only way out is he kills George Kennedy, and so basically, and then there's there's your setup for the revenge, because old Wooden Head apparently witnessed this whole thing and decides to enact his revenge on the 3 thugs.
I will have to say the effects of Old Wooden Head are just fantastic. I mean, you really buy into
time?
I mean, this is not CGI,
Yeah.
obviously. This is all practical, and it looks like a real wooden Indian coming to life. It was really, really neat how they did it. Tom Savini, of course, did the effects for this. He's freaking genius, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But I was actually, I'd forgotten a lot of this segment because I hadn't seen the movie in a while. This seems to be the most forgettable segment for some reason.
Well, yeah, in the beginning, because I think one of the reasons is because the next one, the raft, was featured in the trailer a lot.
Yeah.
The first trailer I saw, and I remember that was the one I wanted to see. And I think, people tend to remember the final segment of anthologies a lot.
Yeah, well, I think
this
people
was a doozy.
I think people also tend to not remember the revenge tales because they're so simple,
right?
In their setup, and they're so common. CREEPSHOW, for instance, the original CREEPSHOW, the one I kind of overlook a lot of times if I'm just thinking back is the water zombies one.
I know, and that's part of Civil War history, so it took a thing of its own.
But that's just a classic revenge tale. I remember Father's Day, which is also a revenge tale, let's face it. But I remember that one because it's the first one and it's so iconic.
I know my cake. Yeah, that. I mean,
this one is a little bland, and it being the first in the movie, you tend to forget it by the end of the film. But of course, Chief Woodenhead comes to life and goes after the thugs that killed his owner or whatever, and yeah, just a classic revenge tale. I mean, that's pretty much all it is. So then that brings us to the second segment, which is everybody's favorite. It's got to be everybody's favorite in Creepshow 2, and that is the raft. And this one is the one, after I saw this movie, the one that I only remembered for years. Like, I didn't even remember the third. There was a time, I remember when, I saw Creepshow 2 in 87 when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it again probably until DVD came out in 98, early 2000s, before I saw it again. So I could not even remember the first and third segments, but I had vivid memories of the raft for multiple reasons.
See, and I remember the second and third always, and not the first. It's funny because of the thanks for the ride, lady.
Yeah,
you know, because that's why.
Yeah, the raft was the only one I could remember, and it's just a fantastic. It holds up even today. It's really, really good. Right. A group of kids come down to the lake. They swim out to one of those rafts they have out in the middle of the lake, which always freaked me out now, by the way. Like, I've never been able to get over my fear of the raft in the middle of the lake thing, and it's all because of this movie. And when they get out there, they realize that there's some kind of blob thing floating around in the water. And if it touches you, your skin basically starts dissolving. And this thing actually has some kind of intelligence because it starts to hunt them. And now they're stuck out here on this raft in the middle of the lake. And I remember this one for multiple reasons, Brian. One, because it's your only boob shot in the entire movie.
Actually, that is not correct. The third one has boobs.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Sorry, I remember because I watched this at my most boob formative years. You know,
I guess I preferred the boobs in the second one, maybe a little more. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah,
I mean, think about it. I was 15 when this came out. Everything was boobs.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I was 13. So yeah. So that's probably why I remember this.
Speaking of that, not to get off the boobs, but in relation to that, the girl that played her was one of the Doublemint twins.
Oh,
she was one of the groups of Doublemint twins. She had a twin sister, and they grew up on Long Island too. So
nice.
So those boobs were from my hometown.
But I love the effects in this one. I mean, I believe they used I think the blob was just like garbage bags or something. It was.
I was gonna say it looks like a garbage bag.
Yeah, I think it was just a bag is basically what they used. But it actually is pretty convincing when you have it floating around in the water. And then like the effects of the people actually getting melted were really good. And this was before the blob, right? Because this was 87.
No, Blob. I think Blob was 86. The remake, wasn't it?
Nope.
I think it was 86.
Blob was 88.
Oh, 88. Okay. I knew it was 1 year apart. For some reason, I thought it was 1 year lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one predated the Blob, and basically has
that Blob at least.
Blob, yeah,
and
basically has some similar type face melting effects. So I don't know if these were filmed at the same time or if did the Blob remake get some inspiration from this. I don't know. But it has some fantastic special effects on this one.
I will say the one thing that bothered me, and it's probably just from the shot of it, but they actually go and make and this is obviously after seeing this countless times and watching this sequence many times too. So there's a sequence when this thing is grabbing the girl literally, and he's watching her. He knows basically as his other two friends have now been eaten by this thing. There's no way he's saving this girl. So at that point, it's on one side of him. If he just jumps off the corner, there's another side of the lake of land he could get to really quickly. Not near his car, of course, but at that point, does it matter?
Right.
And I'm always like, why doesn't he just go there? And then, of course, the famous thing where he jumps off and he does beat it to the lake, and then he decides to taunt the thing.
And sit on the shoreline, run.
Like, get the hell up and go. This thing's not coming out of there.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But I love the idea of this thing just living in this lake.
Well, yeah, and you know what I think it's cool is because it's got that, also that fear of the isolation where you're trapped. Like, there's nothing worse than, when you feel like you can't get out of a situation. And that's what this, and it's if you think about it, it literally is such a simple story that they managed to get out into a half hour, but it doesn't feel like it's draggy or anything. It literally makes sense, It's like and it starts right away. I mean, they drive up. There's a 5-minute setup about that this thing's out in the middle of the water. They get in the water. I mean, that one guy literally leaps out of the car, doesn't even close his door, and he's out halfway through swimming towards that thing. So they're out there right away. I still think, though, he must have the best Ziploc bag in history because he tucks in his weed in there and he goes out and they can still smoke when they get out there. But you just suspend disbelief. And, and so it starts right off the bat. As soon as they're out there, within 2 seconds, you see their dilemma. And the pacing on that episode is great. It's just
it really
boom,
is.
boom, boom, boom. And, it's like...
what's weird,
like, wow.
though? You know what it reminds me of? And this is going to be a weird comparison, but The Ruins.
Yeah,
do you remember The Ruins?
Right.
Because
yes.
I think it's because in The Ruins, if you guys aren't familiar, you have this group of kids that get... I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen the movie, and I read the book even before the movie. But they're going to investigate some archaeological site. And what they don't realize is that it's inhabited by this plant, which is carnivorous.
Right, and that was a really good movie, actually.
It has a fantastic book as well. And this plant would basically lure them to their deaths, and it's like this because they were trapped. They were isolated. They couldn't get off of this site. I don't remember if it was a temple or something, but they couldn't get off.
Yeah, it was like that Mayan temple. They went off the beaten path.
Right.
Like they wanted to see this temple and they all yelled at them. And they remember them when they came. They wouldn't even let them. All the locals didn't want them to even. They didn't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
When they went up there.
But I think it's because the creatures are similar in that they're not really like intelligent in terms of it's like a werewolf or a demon or something like that. They're more like they're just trying to survive. And it's like this animal, in the case of The Ruins, a plant, but kind of this animal level intelligence that's just doing what it needs to do to survive. But you have these people trapped by it and they have no way to escape from it. I don't know why I got that same vibe, but the whole time I was watching it.
Yeah, no, now that you said that, I totally see it.
Yeah,
It's
the whole
a
time I was
great,
watching it, I was
analogy.
like, yeah, this is like The Ruins. Like it's you got this animalistic intelligence that's just basically, it's not malicious, it's just doing its thing to survive.
Yeah.
And it's really creepy to me. Sometimes it's almost a little more creepy than something that has intelligence, because it has no, it's almost like Michael Myers. It has no,
you can't trick it.
You can't trick it. There's no motive. It's just going to do it. It's like a shark. It's going to do what it's going to do. There's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, I really like that one. And then the last segment, of course, is the hitchhiker. And this one, this woman goes to visit a gigolo, which is kind of funny in and of itself. And she's cheating on her husband. So you kind of establish the typical, this lady's okay to die because she's not a good person type setup you see in a lot of these.
She's done her fatal flaw.
Exactly,
right there.
yeah.
That's it.
And as she's driving home from visiting the gigolo, she's late. She's running late. She's trying to get back to her husband before he finds out. And she hits this hitchhiker in the middle of the road and keeps driving. It's basically a hit and run because she doesn't want to stop, because then her husband will find out about her affair and all that. And again, very simple premise. Basically, it's another revenge tale in a way, where the hitchhiker comes back to life somehow. We don't know how, but in these movies, it doesn't matter in these stories, and starts to torment her. And the great thing about this segment, though, is the hitchhiker deteriorates over the course of the segment, because
and he keeps going. He
still keeps going, because at one point she runs over him again.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like I think there's one point she ran over him twice. Like she rolled back over him too, like on purpose, and she's dragging him along. Like literally, this guy there should be nothing left of his body. But
yeah, and it was basically a chance for Tom Savini to go crazy on the effects, because this is like the most gore Like, take somebody and run over them several times. Like, what would they look like?
Yeah, I'll tell you though, there's one shot in that is like that still creeps me out, like even to this day when I watch it, and that's that when she first hits him, and then she's sitting in the car and she's like contemplating it, and you see through her her car window, you see him kind of walking towards it.
Yeah.
And he's doing that like staggering walk and like waving towards her. I'm like, I remember that freaked me out from the first time I saw it, and it still does to this day. I don't know what it's something about like people walk like funny like that freaks me out.
Yeah, and of course he has the famous catchphrase, "Thanks for the ride,
Thanks for the ride, lady." Yeah,
and
gotta love that.
that's like ripped straight out of the comics too. You see that a lot in the comics where they have some catchphrase or whatever that they repeat over and over. So he eventually follows her all the way back to her house and gets his revenge, I guess we'll say.
Yeah. What I like is that like they actually try and play tricks. They kind of put you in her mindset, because at one point, you know, she like when she hits the tree and then she wakes up and she goes, "Oh, it was all a dream. I just hit the tree. This isn't real." And then he appears again, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, another classic revenge story, but this one was elevated because of Tom Savini's effects on this hitchhiker. Just phenomenal. They still hold up. Again, even like at the end where he's got eyeballs dangling off of his face.
Yeah, I mean, this is like good stuff here.
It's really good stuff, and it really holds up, and the practical effects are amazing in this one. And that's how we end. And then, of course, we have the wraparound. The wraparound is completely animated, except for a brief segment in the front and the back where we actually see the Creeper tossing out bundles of the Creepshow comic book, which is live action.
It's the Creeper, by the way.
The Creeper, not the Crypt Keeper, as I would say.
Yeah.
And so you have this animated story, and it's about this... it's basically a kid who's being bullied, and he ends up ordering this giant Venus flytrap out of the pages of the comic. And at the end of the movie, the Venus flytrap gets revenge on his bullies for him. What's interesting, Brian, is did you know that the actual Venus flytrap only grows in about 100-mile area of my hometown?
Really?
In the world.
How does everyone get them?
I mean, people have transplanted them and breed them and stuff, but they only grow naturally anywhere in the world, like within 100 miles of my house.
Wow.
And they are highly protected because there are people that will try to poach those things and sell them because they're so rare. And I mean, they have a big problem with Venus flytrap poaching around here. Because people go there and dig them up. I used to do, because you can get them easily down here. I used to do science fair projects on them. I owned them all growing up. And
yeah, I had one once, like I got from the local nursery. It never worked.
Yeah,
because I think once it closes, that's it, right?
It will open up eventually, or sometimes it'll.
I don't think mine ever opened.
Yeah, sometimes they'll die and fall off, and it'll grow new ones. But I did a science fair project one year where I fed one Venus flytrap only meat, like bugs and hamburger meat, and I fed the other one only like weird stuff like ketchup and chocolate syrup and things.
Okay.
And actually, the one I fed chocolate syrup did better.
Really?
It was not a very scientific experiment, but but yeah, those things are cool. I remember when the first time I ever saw one, my dad showed me one, and I thought in my mind was, okay, it closes, but it's so slow you can't see it because it's a plant, right? You're not going to actually see it close. But that thing actually snapped shut. It scared the crap out of me the first time I saw one of those. It actually snapped shut because it's terrifying to see a plant move on its own, and it does. It's very, very creepy.
Did it say "Feed me, Jimmy"?
They're very creepy. They have little hairs. They have 3 hairs on the inside petal, and if you touch one of those hairs, it will close. It's a reflex, and it's very, very disturbing the first time you ever see one, especially in real life. But
So I should come and buy one when I come visit.
Yeah. So that's just an interesting little bit of trivia. Venus flytraps only grow naturally, one place in the world. Yep. So let's get into some of the trivia here. These are some of the highlights we saw that we thought would point out. Daniel Beer, who played Randy in the segment. What a name, Daniel Beer.
I know, right?
Who played
perfect for Civil Gore?
Yeah, who played Randy in the segment "The Raft" almost died from hypothermia. The water was so cold that his body turned green.
Oh my God.
The crew wanted him to continue acting, but director Michael Gornick said if they get him to keep working, he will walk off the set and never return. So they took him to the hospital. He made a full recovery and came back to complete his segment. So what a trooper.
Well, that's good, though, that the director... Usually you hear the tales of directors the one saying...
I know.
No, do
or
it, do
the
it,
cast
do
is
it.
like, nah, come on, dude. You can suffer.
Yeah.
As we alluded to earlier, there were originally supposed to be 5 stories in this one. And it's kind of too bad because the one segment we do know about, the Cat from Hell, we actually saw adapted because it was later used in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which was essentially Creepshow 3. It had most of the same people working on it. And the other story was going to be one from Stephen King called Pinfall about ghostly rival bowling teams. I don't know how well that one would go over, but...
I guess they spared us that one.
Yeah. The Cat from Hell is actually a really good segment, though, in Tales from the Dark Side. So that one would have fit right in. That would have been great. David Holbrook appeared in the segment Old Chief Woodenhead, and his father, Hal Holbrook, starred in Creepshow in The Crate. So a little father-son connection there between the two movies. Yeah. Stephen King wrote the outline for the movie, and George A. Romero then adapted it into a screenplay. The Raft is actually based on King's short story of the same name from 1982. And the other 2 segments are original for the movie. So The Raft I had remembered from reading that short story way back in the day. When Andy Cavanaugh, one of the 3 young punks in the first segment, Old Chief Woodenhead, is checking out the comic book and magazine rack at Spruce's General Store, several issues of Creepshow can be seen with the same cover as the graphic novel adaptation of Creepshow, which I have. You guys can get this one. I've actually got their first edition of it, but this is the one that came out shortly after the movie that has the... it's basically a comic. It's a graphic novel of the original Creepshow movie. It's really cool.
I have that too, but I don't have the original, but I have a reprint.
Yeah, I ended up buying mine off eBay because I wanted the first one, but it wasn't, even that was not that expensive. I think you can get it fairly cheaply. I remember the first time I saw that, I was in elementary school and a kid brought it to class and I was like, oh my God, I've got to own this.
I know, I was like, oh my God, they really have one?
Oh my gosh, I know, it was amazing. Laverne's, she was in the Raft. Laverne's Horlicks University shirt is a reference to the original short story that segment 2 is based on, which appears in Stephen King's book Skeleton Crew, which is one of his great short story compilations.
Of course, Tim only remembers when her Horlicks University shirt is pulled
came off,
though,
yeah.
as we know. So,
hey, I was 13.
13.
Yeah, 13.
I know. I said I remembered the same thing.
In the story, the characters mentioned they are students there, and it's also been referenced in other works by King, including the Crate segment of the original Creepshow, as well as Christine. So, and I love how King puts the same locations in various books. I mean, all his books tie together. There's a great book that came out several years ago, and they probably release updated versions of it that showcases the connections between all of his books, and it's really, really fascinating to read. And then finally, Deke and Randy call each other by the nicknames Poncho and Cisco. These
like 100 times.
Yeah, these 2 character names are borrowed from the Cisco Kid, 1950, which was a television show playing in the background during the first segment, Old Chief Woodenhead. So there's some of the trivia there for you guys. And yeah, I mean, Creepshow 2, again, obviously it's not going to be Creepshow, which is a classic, but I think over time it's still very enjoyable. None of these segments are actually bad. I mean, again, I think the biggest weakness of the whole movie is that there's only 3 segments.
Right.
And the Raft is phenomenal. I think it's worth watching for the Raft just alone.
Yeah.
And the Hitchhiker for what it's worth, but just because of
now I like all 3 of them. I mean, I have my favorites, but yeah, all 3 of them are enjoyable now.
Yeah, they're great. Okay, Brian, so what do we have for our beer pairing this week?
So, I was, even though, of course, as we mentioned in the episode, most people remember the Raft as the big episode, but, I think equally, for me at least, that, I love the Hitchhiker one, so that's what I went with, and I found a beer called Hitchhiker, and it's by Good People Brewing Company from Birmingham, Alabama, and so it's 7.8 ABV, and here's a description. It's rocking more of a West Coast vibe than our flagship IPA. Hitchhiker balances the aromas of pineapple, grapefruit, orange, and tangerine with a caramel malt backbone. So go ahead, pick one up. See what they did there?
Yeah.
You won't be sorry. And out of the hops, they use Columbus, Cascade, and Simcoe. And there's 2 types of malts. 3 types of malts, which is 2-row, crystal, and Carapalis or Carapels. Not sure what those are, but anyway, but 3 types of malts is pretty good. So this sounds like actually really delicious beer.
It does, yeah.
Might have to keep an eye out for this.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so let's get to our triple threat from last week. We were looking for an actor or actress, and
We got some correct ones.
We got some correct ones, and Cody about pulled her hair out with this one.
Yes, I think she was going to literally reach through the social media feed and strangle me on this one.
So the answer we were looking for was Jamie Lee Curtis. So let's go through the clues and explain our reasoning. Clue number 1, I am the offspring of 2 Hollywood legends and each starred in films featured on previous Civil War episodes. Jamie, of course, is the daughter of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. Tony Curtis starred in The Manitou and Janet Leigh starred in Psycho. Clue number 2, while I am most famous for a particular franchise, I did not always play the same character in every film.
I think this is the one that stumped people.
This was super tricky because a lot of people don't even realize this.
Yeah.
But, of course, Jamie Lee played Laurie Strode in all of the Halloween films. Leslie is her cousin.
Yeah, that's Leslie Strode. She's in she appears in the new Blumhouse sequel.
She, of course, played Laurie Strode in all the Halloween films she acted, except for Halloween 3, where she lent her voice as the curfew announcer and the telephone operator. That's super tricky.
It was. Yeah, that's the one where people probably want to throw something at my head.
But people still got it.
Yeah,
so.
no, they got it. I think it was funny. I think Clue 3, which in terms for horror fans was probably the most obscure, but remember, our audience has a mix of good horror fans and theme park fans, so I think
that's right.
The third one was, I think, what cemented it for a lot of people.
Yeah. So
I think it was David or Johnny, one of them. They said that was the thing that gave them away. It might have been Johnny, I think, on Twitter. He said that, I think that was once he looked that up, that's where he got it from.
Yeah, because there's only so many that could fit that role.
Right.
So clue number 3 was, I once starred in a defunct attraction at Walt Disney World's Epcot Center. Jamie Lee played Dr. Judy Peterson in the Jeopardy segment in Ellen's Energy Adventure attraction, which to this day is still my most hated Epcot attraction.
Even with Jamie Lee in it?
Even with Jamie Lee in it. I hated that thing.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have to say, it was as far as attractions go, it was not the most thrilling, but I did say I had a respect for the unique ride system. But you were in like the seat, and it was basically little rows of seats that would kind of move around, like full huge rows of seats that would basically move into your ride vehicles, and they'd get into place and then follow each other. I mean, that part I have to respect that attraction. That was pretty ambitious at the time. I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, the attraction itself was not the most exciting. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres teaching about energy. I don't know.
Yeah. I like the dinosaur stuff, but obviously.
Oh, yeah, right. That part was cool.
But the rest of it was like being in a very boring history class or geology class. All right, so this week we are looking for another actor or actress, and Brian described this as diabolical. So be forewarned. I don't think it's our hardest one we've ever had, but it's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Listen carefully. Clue number 1. My first film was in a huge 80s ensemble cast, yet my scenes were cut from the final version. Clue number 2. Luckily, my next theatrical film put me on the map, although it was a nightmare. And clue number 3, I've played a coach's daughter, a real-life Olympian, and even played myself. Who am I? That one could be super easy or super hard, depending on how you approach it.
Yes, and which clue. Now, and here's a tip I'll give, and just this is in general. This is not just for this one. This is for all these trivia. Don't look at one clue in particularly, especially don't go in order. Don't just look at the first one and go to the second one and go to the third one. Sometimes it could be the second one that's the big clue, sometimes the third one. So always look at all 3 as a whole and just kind of like, I know I keep saying this, I have to get better to make sure I have them on social media so you can see them written out, so you can look at all 3 at once. And just if you look there, because so many times I think the biggest pitfall that people have is they capture one clue and they're stuck on that thing, and then they try and make the other 2 fit, and that doesn't always work. You kind of have to just kind of look at all 3 at the same time, if that makes sense, and get it. That'll be my tip, I think.
All right, so for our final segment, Brian, our whatever you call that thing,
Zabando.
Zabando. I think you want to call it Zabadoing from that. I was a teenage
Oh yeah, I was a
Zabadoing
teenager. Didn't I
movie.
buy that because of you? You made me
I
buy
don't
it.
I don't know.
I think I owned that box set because it was like a three movie set. There was like some weird thing, and I had to buy it because you kept saying Zabazoing. But,
Zabadoing. Yeah, so I'm gonna start calling this Zabadoing even.
Zabadoing. We'll call it Zabadoing.
Else.
Well, yeah, maybe because I didn't really have to secure the rights to the name Zabando, and who knows if I'm allowed to read their book over the air. But so, all right, Tim. So we'll do the usual. I'll start flipping through the book, and when you tell me to stop, I'll pick the most horror one out of the two.
Okay, stop.
Okay. So neither one is really horror based.
That's okay. Just pick one.
You just pick one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this one because this one I guess could be themed almost like a Fear Factor-ish type of one. So it says, okay. I don't think this one's that hard either, but anyway. Would you rather eat 1 can of soft dog food or 5 cups of dry dog food? And actually, if you were curious, they actually have the full ingredients to the Alpo Prime Cuts Gourmet Dinner and Gravy. In case you need assistance.
1 cup. Now, are we talking like a measuring cup? That's a lot of content there. A cup is significant.
I'd say a measuring cup. They do say, 1 can or 5 cups of dry. Yeah, so 1 can of the soft dog food. And then, but the 5 cups of the dry dog food.
Oh my gosh. Now, this is actually the toughest one I've come across so far.
Really? Honestly. And to me, I think this is totally easy for me. Although, based on looking at the Alpo Prime Cuts Gourmet Dinner and Gravy, let's say that's the soft dog food. I'll give you mine first. I would pick the soft dog food because it's basically meat and gravy. And chicken and beef and gravy, but they add sulfate in there, which I'm allergic to, so I'd probably end up in the hospital eating this. But I'd rather do that than dry dog food, because I think my only way to do that dry dog food is like literally pour it in a bowl, pour milk in it, and just pretend it's like a really bad cereal.
See, I was going to say the dry dog food.
Really?
Because I feel like it would take me a long time, but I feel like I could just like eat it really quick, like a piece of cookie or something, and get it out. Like, I think I would throw up if I ate wet dog food. Like, I don't think I could physically do it.
See, well, and here they've actually, I realized they list both the ingredients to Purina dog chow. So if you want to know what you're eating in there, you may change your mind. I don't know, but actually, no, maybe you won't. I don't know. It's a lot of corn-based thing.
Yeah,
but it does have beef tallow preserved with mixed tocopherols. So whatever that is, you're going to be eating that 5 times.
I don't know, but it would take longer, though. That's the problem. I don't know. It really depends on if you could prepare this stuff somehow.
Well, I knew
if you have to eat it straight.
When I was a kid, one of my babysitters, her boyfriend, used to eat dog biscuits voluntarily.
Ugh.
So, yeah, I don't know. So maybe there's something to say about eating the dry food. I don't know. I think I could eat the regular dog food because, I mean, it's meat and gravy. So I'll tell you, it's water, poultry, beef, and wheat gluten, and meat byproducts, which are the first ingredients to that thing. And I think we probably had that at almost half the fast food restaurants we go to.
Oh, I guess we'll have a split decision on this one then. I must still go with the dry, because I think my gag reflex, I just couldn't do the wet.
You know what we'll have to do is when I come visit you in a couple of weeks for the wedding, what I'll do is we'll buy a we'll buy a can of dog food, and we'll buy a bag, and Tim and I will race to see who can eat it first.
And we'll video it.
We'll video it. So you'll see me in the hospital after I eat too much sulfates, and Tim choking on dry dog food.
Oh my gosh!
I kind of like this segment. I know it's not as horror as the rest of the show, but it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're gonna sign off. We'll see you back here next week for our. We'll be in October.
Yeah, and remember our horror challenge, as we announced earlier this week, will already be in swing by next week. So by the next episode. So definitely, I hope you guys are you requested the sheet that we provided, so you can have your own little checklist. And if not, you better get going, because you know what, you got to get it all done in 31 days.
Right, and we won't tell if you start early.
No, you
We
can
won't hold it
you can
against
start early technically if
Yeah.
you've started already.
Yeah. All right, guys. Remember, stay off those rafts.
And thanks for the ride, Tim.